The Supreme Court dealt a major blow to President Trump at the end of June, essentially blocking his administration's plan to end the Obama-era DACA program. But as it turns out, the president has actually come to see that ruling as one that could be advantageous to him in the coming months. In fact, those advising the president believe the 5-4 decision may have given Mr. Trump even more executive power. John Yoo, the same lawyer who wrote President Bush's so-called torture memos, has confirmed that he has been advising the president directly on this matter. President Trump took notice of an article Professor Yoo wrote for the National Review, in which the UC Berkeley law professor argues, among many other things, that the recent DACA ruling, quote, makes it easy for presidents to violate the law, but reversing such violations more difficult. Professor Yoo has a new book out. It's called Defender-in-Chief, Donald Trump's Fight for Presidential Power. And Professor John Yoo joins me now. He is a professor of law at the University of California at Berkeley and also a visiting scholar at the American Enterprise Institute. Professor Yoo, thank you for being with us and welcome.
Hi, Tanya.
So I first want to discuss please help us understand, actually, how the recent DACA ruling is helping President Trump look at his immigration law going forward with more freedom, or it looks as if it will extend his ability to now declare, if he wishes, that the immigration policy going forward should be looking more merit-based.
It's a great question, Tanya. I'm a supporter of DACA, but I think that under the Constitution, only Congress can create new categories of legal residence. Instead, President Obama created the program by saying, I'm not going to enforce the immigration laws as to categories start at around 2 million. I think most estimates are now around 6 million aliens. The problem is that, again, the president can only implement the immigration laws that Congress passed. I expected that the Supreme Court would agree and would say presidents can't just reduce enforcement of a law to zero. But a few weeks ago, the Supreme Court said, in this case, Homeland Security versus my employer actually here, the University of California's Regents, that actually, even though President Trump thinks that program's unconstitutional, even though the lower courts found it unconstitutional, President Trump has to keep carrying it out unless it uses something called the Administrative Procedure Act. I was actually a critic of the decision, and my article was meant to show what other implications of decision there would be if the Supreme Court really believes what it says. And so as you asked, Tanya, why can't President Trump now reorient immigration law towards something that's more skills-based and less families-based or more asset-based and say, well, I'm not going to enforce immigration laws against anybody who has a STEM degree, or I'm not going to enforce immigration laws against anybody who brings in $5 million and invests in American business.
So you're saying that the precedent was set with President Obama that is now allowing President Trump equal immigration freedom?
Yes, I think that's the thing. Many people, I think, probably were fine with President Trump losing on DACA because a lot of Americans like DACA. I like DACA. I just think it should be done differently. But it opened up this box that gives President Trump, it seems to me, the same kind of power that President Obama had. He can just apply it to other areas of immigration law or to even other subjects.
Right. Okay, so tell us about the recent meeting you had in the Oval Office with President Trump. Can you offer us a glimpse inside that meeting and what sort of advice you gave the president?
I don't want to get into the actual substance of the conversations. I think the president ought to have confidentiality in his advice. I know that's an old-fashioned, perhaps obsolete view. But I will say this. Obviously, it was prompted by my National Review article and a new book that I had coming out last week. It talks about this issue. And I would just say this. I found him very energized. I found him on top of the policy issues. I think he understood quite well the constitutional issues about DACA and about the Supreme Court. And I think he's really trying to figure out policies for this term, and I think he hopes, obviously, for a second term.
And Professor, as I'm sure you're aware, there are some law school scholars and critics that are calling your ideas and your sort of encouragement of President Trump here disingenuous and unconstitutional. Harvard Law School professor Lawrence Tribe, as I'm sure you read his, Professor Lawrence Tribe's recent tweet that your take on the DACA decision was, quote, is wildly irresponsible and unconstitutional. How do you respond to that?
I think critics of President Trump, and I've been critical of him on some things too, think that there's one kind of constitutional law that applies to Trump and another kind that should apply to Obama. And I hate to say it, but what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If people are willing to say, oh, let's have a great deal of discretion in President Obama to not enforce the immigration laws, why doesn't President Trump have that same power? Why can't you just do a search for place in the Supreme Court opinion and take out DACA and DAPA and put in skills-based immigration or asset-based immigration? My friends who are on the liberal side of things, I didn't hear them complaining about President Obama's executive power in DACA. I didn't hear them complaining about the Supreme Court opinion. 3 weeks ago, they only complained about President Trump.
So quick question. I see that you're saying that the precedent was set with President Obama, but would you say that in both cases with President Obama and if President Trump goes along that same route, that it is unconstitutional at the end of the day for both of them?
I thought the Supreme Court was wrong, but the Supreme Court is the final interpreter these days, and they're the one who allow. I would actually prefer a system where neither president can do it. They both have to enforce the law, and Congress makes the decisions, as it should, about who gets to stay in our country and how many.
All right. Well, Professor John Yoo, I could talk to you about this all day, but unfortunately we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.